So price drops are happening, and honestly, a lot of sellers aren't really prepared for what that means. And it's not because every seller's in trouble right now, and it's not because the market just suddenly fell off a cliff. In a lot of cases, it's just that the old strategy of pricing high and let's just see what happens really doesn't work in today's market. And honestly, following that strategy can get both expensive and frustrating fast. So if you've thought about selling a home in Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson, or anywhere in the upstate, but you're kind of wondering, is it better to list now or should I wait? This is the framework that I want you to understand before you make that decision. Because honestly, price drops don't always mean that you missed your chance. Sometimes they just mean that sellers skipped an important strategy. Sellers everywhere are seeing price drops and negative headlines, and it's easy to think that maybe I should just wait, that the timing's not right. But the truth is, homes are still selling. Buyers are moving every single day. Buyers are also a little bit more selective, and overpricing in this market gets exposed a whole lot faster. And local data right now matters way more than fear. And as I mentioned, price drops don't mean that every seller is in trouble right now. It just means that the market is less forgiving of a bad strategy or none at all. Sellers need to really understand what's selling, what's sitting, and why. You really need to know what your active competition looks like because buyers are being way more selective now than ever. So before you decide to list or wait, these are the 5 things that I would consider first. So let's start with your real competition. It's highly important to know what you're competing against before you decide to list. Don't look only at the list price. Look at what's actually selling and why. Look at what's been sitting. Look at the homes that have had multiple price reduction and certain areas where that theme kind of runs throughout. Compare condition, location, updates, the lot size, the age, and of course the surroundings. Is there new construction nearby that could be affecting buyer demand because of incentives they're offering? Your competition is honestly every option out there that a buyer is comparing your property against. And honestly, just because your neighbor or someone in the area listed way too high, it doesn't mean the market agrees. Sometimes the market can be very polite, and sometimes it'll say nothing by not just showing up. And once you know what you're competing against, the next thing to look at is the gap between the list price and the actual sales price of a home. This is going to let you know if homes are actually selling near their list price. And when you look at the list price versus the sales price, that's going to show you the overall accuracy, the strategy that might have been implemented in order to get that price. Sometimes it can show negotiation pressure. Be sure to ask agents for their own sell to list ratios and their numbers. A high suggested list price doesn't always mean a better result. The list price may get attention, but the sold price is ultimately what matters. And a high list price can honestly feel great on one day, but if no one bites, that confidence can start getting a little expensive. Then I'd want to know actually how fast homes are moving in my particular market. When you look at absorption rate, it's going to show you how quickly a market is actually moving. It's going to show you how many homes are sold versus how many homes are actually available. That's a good way of looking at how fast the market and inventory is moving. Look at your neighborhood price range and the property types. Greenville and Spartanburg can move completely different from one another. Different price points, $300,000 versus $900,000 are going to move at entirely different rates depending on the median price point of an area. And broad headlines don't tell you the full exact story. The market really isn't just one big blanket. Your price range, your location, condition, and competition, all that matters and plays a big role. And this is where a lot of sellers underestimate the process, and that's the agent strategy. And honestly, the agent's job isn't just to put a for sale sign in the front yard and put the home on the MLS. However, that's what a lot of them do. MLS exposure does matter, but that's not the whole story, nor should it be the entire strategy. The pricing strategy is going to consist of sold data, active competition, new construction nearby, different things that could affect your ability to sell and the time frames you're looking at. Your photos, videos, ads, social exposure, agent network, feedback, all this is a part of a big strategy. And sometimes they're showing feedback and other times there's none. Usually if a property is getting showings but no offers, or in a worst case, no showings at all, that's usually a good indication that something's off with the price. Buyers perceive the price maybe to be a little bit too high for the competition they're looking at around you. Is the agent able to create attention and get you the exposure that you need beyond the MLS? And while all those things are great, it's not the same thing as creating demand for a property. And after all that, there's one personal question that sellers really need to ask, and that's, do you actually have to sell right now? And this is sometimes a question that sellers don't ask soon enough. Are you in a position where you could really hold the property and sit on it? Are you selling because of a job, a relocation, family, family, downsizing or upsizing? Do you really need the extra space right now? Because if you can wait comfortably, you may have some more flexibility. But if you can't, that's okay, because life happens and you still have to move on. But this is where the pricing and strategy is going to matter a whole lot more. Because honestly, waiting out of fear isn't always safer. And listing now isn't always wrong. The decision should ultimately be based on your timeline, your life circumstances, and what the overall local data and numbers look like, not out of fear. And at the end of the day, if those numbers make sense, then it could be worth pursuing. And sometimes doing nothing feels extremely safe sometimes. But doing nothing is still a strategy, just not a very good one. So when we put all this together, here's the real takeaway. Price drops aren't a reason to panic. They're a reason to prepare. So know what's selling, know what's sitting, know the list to sales ratios. Know the absorption rate, know the agent strategy, know your timeline, because ultimately data and a plan is going to beat fear all day long. And strategy and preparedness is going to beat out all the guesswork. And honestly, in this market, sellers can still do well, but the market is a lot less forgiving overall. So this is why you have to show up prepared if you want the best result. So this brings us back to the question that I mentioned earlier. The question that most sellers don't ask them soon enough is, do I actually even have to sell right now? Because if you can hold comfortably, you could have some options, you could have some flexibility. You may be able to wait for a better window to appear, perhaps make some improvements, or choose a different strategy overall. But if selling is the right move for your life right now, and it's what makes the most sense for you, waiting out of fear may not actually help you and have no reward at all. The preparation, the right agent, and team surrounding you matter more than just the headlines. Because at the end of the day, the real goal isn't just to list your home and stick a for sale sign in the front yard. It's to make the best move around your actual situation and ultimately figure out what makes the most sense for you right now. So if you're thinking about selling in Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson, or anywhere in the upstate, I'd love to hear where you're at in the process. Are you waiting because you're worried about the right market and seeing how things change? Or are you just trying to figure out what your home could be worth in today's market? Drop your situation down in the comments, and I can give you an honest answer based off what the market's actually saying right now. And if you'd like a clearer picture before making a decision, and maybe you need a little bit of guidance to kind of navigate this process, reach out to Homes Ever After. We can walk you through the numbers, lay everything out, help it make sense, focus on your timing, your competition, and ultimately helping you achieve your goals, if selling actually makes the most sense or not.